Hello friends, welcome to English Minds, Unlock the Magic of English Literature. Today we will discuss on John Keats' life works. I hope you are a serious student, applicant, scholar. Please ensure you have a pen paper ready to take notes or complete your assessment accurately. Very first question. When was Keats born? Option A, 1795. Keats was born on October 31st, 1795. When was John Keats born? Option B, London. He was born in Moorgate, London, England. What profession did Keats train for before becoming a poet? Option A, doctor. Keats trained as an apothecary surgeon before pursuing poetry. Who was Keats' closest literary friend? Option C, Leigh Hunt. Leigh Hunt was a mentor of and one of Keats' closest literary allies. Which tragic event deeply affected Keats during his early life? Option A, death of his parents. Keats lost his father in 1804 and his mother in 1810. Events that deeply affected him. At what age did Keats lost his parents? Option C, 14. Keats was only 14 when he became an orphan after his mother's death. Where did Keats study medicine? Option B, Guy's Hospital. In London. In which year did Keats abandon medicine to pursue poetry? Option B, 1816. In 1816, Keats decided to leave medicine to focus on his poetic career. Who introduced Keats to Leigh Hunt? Option C, Charles Clark. Which disease ultimately caused Keats' death? Options B, tuberculosis. In 1821, at the age of 25. Which was the first published poem by John Keats? Option B, On First Looking into Chapman's Homer. This sonnet, inspired by George Chapman's translation by Homer, was Keats' first published poem. Which magazine published Keats' first poem? Option B, The Examiner. Keats' poem appeared in Leigh Hunt magazine, The Examiner, in 1816. What was the title of Keats' first poetry collection? Option B, Poems. His first poem collection, Poems, was published in 1870. In which year was Keats' first collection published? Option B, 1817. Keats' first collection was published in 1817 by C.J. Ollier. What was Keats' longest poem? Option B, Endymion. Published in 1818. It's Keats' longest poem. Which famous line opens Keats' poems Endymion. Option A. A thing of beauty is joy forever. This iconic opening line from Endymion. Which poetic form is Keats most famous for? Option B. Odes. Who harshly criticized Keats' works in the early stage of his career? Option B. The Quarterly Review. This publication criticized Keats' early work harshly, calling them overly sensuous. Which 1818 poem by Keats is dedicated to the memory of his brother Tom? Option C. Hyperion. Keats wrote the Hyperion as a tribute to his brother Tom, who died in 1818. Where did Keats write his famous odes? A. Winchester. Keats composed several odes, including two Ottoman, during his stay in 1819. Which of the following is not an ode by Keats? Option C. Ode to the West Wind, written by Shelley. Which poem contains the phrase beauty is truth, truth beauty? Option C. Ode on a Grecian Urn. This line reflects Keats' philosophy of beauty and truth. Which of Keats' odes deal with the fleeting nature of happiness? Option A. Ode on Melancholy. This ode discusses the transient nature of happiness and advises embracing sorrow as part of life. In which poem does Keats describe the goddess Psyche? Option A. Lamia. Option B. Hyperion. Option C. Ode to Psyche. Option D. Endymion. Option C. Ode to Psyche. This poem pays tribute to the Greek goddess Psyche. What does Keats describe as close bosom friend of the maturing sun? 25. Option C. Ottoman. In two Ottoman, Keats described as a close bosom friend of the maturing sun. Which of Keats' poem begins with season of mists and mellow fruitfulness? Option A. To Ottoman. These poems begin with the iconic line season of mists and mellow fruitfulness, celebrating the beauty of autumn. In which poem does Keats express a desire to escape the pains of the world? Option B. Ode to a Nightingale. In this ode, Keats expresses a longing to escape the pains and suffering of the mortal world. Which of the following poems is an unfinished epic by Keats? Option A. Hyperion. Hyperion is an unfinished epic dealing with the fall of the Titans and the rise of the Olympian gods. What is the theme of the Eve of Saint Agnes? Romantic love and imagination. The Eve of Saint Agnes revolves around the romantic love between Porphyro and Mandolin, intertwined with themes of imagination and idealism. Which poem features the character of Mandolin? आप सब जानते हैं. The Eve of Saint Agnes. Which mythological figure is the central character in Keats' Endymion? Option C. Dinah. In Endymion, The moon goddess Dinah is central to the narrative. In Hyperion, who is the god of light that supplants Hyperion? Bolo bolo. Option A, Apollo. In Hyperion, Apollo, the god of light and poetry, replaces Hyperion as the sun god. Which poem by Keats begin with the line, "A thing of beauty is a joy forever"? Option A, Endymion. What does Keats refer to as the murmurous haunt of flies on summer eves? Option D, a meadow. This line appears in Two Atman, where Keats describes a meadow full of buzzing life. Which of Keats' poem was inspired by observing a nightingale in the Hampstead Garden? Option A, Ode to a Nightingale. Keats was inspired to write this poem after hearing a nightingale sing in Hampstead. Which of the following themes is most prevalent in Keats' poetry? Option A, nature and mortality. Keats often explored theme of nature, transience, and the inevitability of death. What literary device is central to Keats' odes? Option B, personification. Keats frequently personifies abstract concepts such as autumn and melancholy in his odes. What poetic form is Keats credited with perfecting? Option B, ode. Keats perfected the romantic ode, a poetic form characterized by its meditative tone and lyrical beauty. What does Keats describe as the viewless wings of poesy? Option A, imagination. The viewless wings of poesy refer to the power of imagination to transcend reality. Which work reflects Keats' concept of negative capability? Option B, Ode to a Nightingale. This work reflects Keats' concept of negative capability as he immerses himself in the bird's song without seeking definitive answers. What is negative capability, a term coined by Keats? Option A, the ability to accept uncertainty and doubt. Negative capability is a Keats' idea that a poet should embrace ambiguity without trying to rationalize it. Which of the following best represent Keats' attitude towards beauty? Option A, beauty is eternal, not transience. Keats saw beauty as a timeless and universal truth as exemplified in Ode on a Grecian Urn. In Keats' poetry, autumn is often a symbol of what? Option B, change and transition. In Keats' poetry, autumn symbolizes the transitional period between life and death, emphasizing ripeness and decay. Which recurring theme in Keats' poetry contrasts the transient nature of life? Option A, eternal beauty. Keats often contrasts life transience with the timelessness of beauty and art as seen in Ode on a Grecian Urn. What does Keats mean by the phrase melancholy dwells with beauty? Option C, beauty and sadness coexist. Keats believed that beauty and melancholy are intertwined, as fleeting beauty often evokes a sense of sorrow. In which year Keats died? Option B, 1821. 23rd February at the age of 25 in Rome. Where is John Keats buried? Option C. Protestant cemetery in Rome. Keats is buried in the Protestant cemetery in Rome alongside his friend Joseph Severin. What is inscribed on Keats' gravestone? Option A. Here lies on whose name was writ in water. This epitaph, chosen by Keats, reflects his despair and belief that his fame would be short-lived. Who accompanied Keats to Italy during his final days? Option C. Joseph Seven. Seven, an artist and close friends of Keats, accompanied him to Italy and cared for him during his final days. Which poet wrote elegy for Keats titled Agnes? Option B. Shelley. Shelley wrote the elegy Adonis as a tribute to Keats after his death, lamenting his ultimately demise. Also, untimely demise. Which critic infamously attacked Keats' work in a review? Option B. John Wilson Crocker. Crocker, a critic for the Quarterly Review, attacked Keats' endymion, leading to allegations that his harsh reviews contributed to Keats' deteriorating health. Which magazine published harsh review of Keats' poem? Option A. The Quarterly Review. This magazine published sketching reviews of Keats' works, branding him part of the Cockney School of Poetry. Cockney School of Poetry. Keats' critics suggested his early death was caused by what? Emotional distress due to criticism. Option B. It was falsely believed at the time that the harsh criticism of his work hastened his death. Who described Keats as one of the Cockney School of Poetry? John Gibson Lockhart. Option C. Lockhart coined the term Cockney School in a derogatory critique targeting Keats and other poets. What was the title of Keats' last published volume of poetry? Option B. Lamia, Isabella, the Eve of St. Agnes, and other poems. This was the final collection of poems published in 1820. Which famous Victorian poet praised Keats as a poet of beauty? Option B. Alfred Lord Tennyson. Tennyson praised Keats for his sensuousness and appreciation of beauty. Which poet compared Keats to Shakespeare in terms of imagination? Option A. P.B. Shelley. Shelley compared Keats' imagination to Shakespeare in his elegy Adonis. What quality did critics and readers appreciate in Keats' odes? Option B. Musicality and imagery. Keats' odes are celebrated for their lyrical quality and vivid descriptions. What movement was Keats posthumously associated with? Option A. Romanticism. Keats is considered one of the central figures of the Romantic movement. Who edited the 1848 edition of Keats' Letters and Poems. Richard Williamson. What does Keats mean by foster child of silence and slow time in Ode on a Grecian Urn? Option C. The Urn. In Ode on a Grecian Urn, Keats uses the urn as a metaphor for eternal beauty. Which poem explores the idea of external versus fleeting beauty? Option B. Ode on a Grecian Urn. Which mythological figure is central to the poem of Lamia? Option A. A serpent woman. In Lamia, the protagonist is a mythical creature, half woman, half serpent. What does Keats describe as half in love with easeful death? Option A. A Nightingale song. In Ode to a Nightingale, Keats wishes to escape the pains of life through the bird song. Keats often juxtaposed with two contrasting themes in his poetry. Option B. Life and death. Keats often juxtaposed themes of life and death in his poetry. In Odes, in Ode on Melancholy, what does Keats suggest as a remedy of melancholy? Option B. Embracing the beauty of the moment. In Ode on Melancholy, Keats advises immersing oneself in beauty to cope with sorrow. Which Greek god is referred to in Hyperion as representing the new order? Option B. Apollo. In Hyperion, Apollo represents the new order, replacing the Titans. Keats' fascination with Greek mythology is evident in which poem? Option A. Hyperion. Keats explored his fascination with Greek mythology in the epic fragment. Which of Keats' poems reflects his philosophy of negative capability? Option A. Ode to a Nightingale. The poem exemplifies negative capability through its embrace of ambiguity and beauty. What does Keats often symbolize as a source of inspiration and reflection? Option A. Nature. Nature is a recurring symbol of beauty, inspiration, and solace in Keats' work. Which of Keats' works was left incomplete at the time of his death? Option A. Hyperion. Hyperion remained incomplete due to Keats' declining health. Keats' letters are celebrated for their exploration of which concept? Aesthetic philosophy. Keats' letters dwell into his ideas on beauty, poetry, and imagination. In his letters, Keats defined the term negative capability is the ability to accept uncertainties and mysteries. Negative capability is Keats' term for embracing ambiguity without forcing reason. To whom did Keats write the famous line, I am certain of nothing but the holiness of the heart affections? Option C. Benjamin Bailey. Keats expressed his faith in the heart's emotions in his letters to Belly. Keats wrote many of his letters to which two close friends, Charles Brown. Brown was a close friend and companion to Keats during his most productive years. At the at what age did Keats die? Option A. Keats died of tuberculosis at the young age of 25. What phrase described Keats' approach to his critics? Option B. Silent acceptance. Keats rarely defended himself publicly against criticism, choosing to focus on his art. Keats' tombstone famously omits his name and includes the phrase. Option B. Here lies one whose name was writ in water. Keats requested this epitaph, symbolizing his fear of being forgotten. Keats' reputation as a great poet was established in which century? Option C. 20th. Which poet remarked Keats' name was writ in eternity, not in water? Option B. P.B. Shelley. Shelley's Adonis refuses the notion that Keats' name would fade. What is the central metaphor in Ode to a Grecian Urn? Option A. Eternal art, a frozen moment in time. Ode on a Grecian Urn meditates on the timelessness of art. Which poem reflects Keats' longing for transcendence through art? Option D. Ode to a Nightingale. The phrase beauty is truth, truth beauty appears in which poem? Option C. Ode on a Grecian Urn. In Two Autumn, which of the following images is not described? Option D. A winter snowfall is not described. The Two Autumn celebrates the season of bounty and ripeness, not winter. In to a Nightingale, what does Keats wish for as an escape from the pain of life? Option A. Wine. Keats wishes for wine to help in escape reality in Ode to a Nightingale. Which bird serves as a symbol of immortality in Keats' Ode to a Nightingale? Option A. Nightingale. The nightingale symbolizes immortality through its eternal song. The line "Thou wast not born for death, immortal bird" reflects Keats' option C. envy of nature's permanence. The bird's eternal song contrasts with human mortality. Which Keats poem portrays the goddess Psyche? Option A. Ode to Psyche. Keats celebrated the Greek goddess Psyche and her neglect mythology. In Ode on Melancholy, what does Keats suggest one should do when overwhelmed by melancholy? Seek beauty and pleasure. Option A. Its correct answer. Which poem by Keats begins with the line "No, no, go not to late"? Option A. Ode on Melancholy. The poem begins with a rejection of Lethe, the river of forgetfulness. Keats emphasize on the sensory and emotional experience in poetry aligned with which romantic ideal. Option C, negative capability. Keats emphasized the power of imagination and emotional openness in poetry. What does Keats consider the highest function of poetry? Option C, representation of beauty. For Keats' poetry, highest goal was to capture and convey beauty. Keats' To Autumn is often regarded as a perfect example of option B, ode form. To Autumn is often cited as a perfect example of the romantic ode. Keats described the imagination as way to understand truth and beauty. Keats viewed imagination as a pathway to universal truth. Keats believed poetry should appeal primarily to option B, senses and emotions. Keats believed poetry should primarily evoke sensory and emotion responses. Keats' philosophy of art was heavily influenced by which ancient culture? Option B, Greek. Greek mythology and culture significantly influenced Keats' work. Which of Keats' letters explain his concept of the wheel of soul making? Option D, to George and Georgina Keats. In this letter, Keats elaborated on his idea of soul making. In Keats' view, the poet should option B, merge completely with the subject of the poem. Keats believed poets should immerse themselves in their subject. Keats' poetic philosophy contrasts with which contemporary romantic poet? Wordsworth focus on nature moral lessons. Keats focused more on beauty than on moral or didactic elements. Keats' aesthetic vision is best summarized by which of his lines? Option B, beauty is truth, truth, beauty. This line from Ode on a Grecian Urn captures Keats' aesthetic philosophy. I hope you like this video. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to this channel. Stay tuned for more informative content and make sure to hit the bell icon to never miss an update. See you in the next video. Thank you.